It was a quiet afternoon in Manila's upscale boutique. The place looked ordinary. Racks of colorful dresses, soft music in the background, the hum of conversations between customers and shop attendants. For most people, it was just another day of shopping. But among the customers, a familiar face walked in. Manny Pacquiao, the world champion, and his wife, Jinkee, entered the store. Unlike the glamorous images the world usually sees, today they appeared simple, Manny in plain jeans and a polo shirt, Jinkee in a modest pastel dress. No cameras, no spotlight, no crowd of fans. They were just husband and wife enjoying a peaceful afternoon. At first, no one paid much attention. Some recognized them, others whispered softly. But the couple moved with humility, greeting the staff with warm smiles. Manny looked relaxed, happy just being away from the noise of fame. Then suddenly, the calm broke. At the counter, a young saleswoman grew visibly frustrated. She had been helping Jinkee with fittings, but the interaction was not smooth. Voices began to rise. The saleswoman muttered under her breath, then grew louder, her face red with anger. And then, the unthinkable happened. In a flash, the saleswoman's hand struck across Jinkee's cheek. A loud slap echoed through the boutique. The entire room froze. Shoppers gasped. The staff dropped what they were holding. All eyes darted between Jinkee, who stood in shock, and the trembling employee whose anger had now turned into fear. Whispers spread like wildfire. Did she just slap Manny Pacquiao's wife? Oh no, she's finished. Security. We'll drag her out. Some customers pulled out their phones to record, eager to capture the drama. Others shook their heads in disbelief. And yet, in that moment of chaos, Manny remained calm. He did not shout. He did not move forward aggressively. Instead, his eyes quietly studied the situation, as though searching for something deeper than the act itself. The tension in the room was unbearable. Everyone wondered the same thing. What would Manny Pacquiao do next? Have you ever seen someone insulted or humiliated in public, and you couldn't stop wondering how they would respond? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. The boutique was no longer the same cheerful place it had been just minutes ago. The air turned heavy. Everyone's eyes darted toward Manny Pacquiao and his wife, Jinkee. The saleswoman who had raised her hand was now frozen, her chest heaving, her lips trembling, but pride still lingered on her face. She muttered under her breath, "She looked down on me first." The manager came rushing in. "What is happening here?" she snapped, glaring at the young employee. The staff whispered in panic. A few customers, unable to hide their outrage, spoke out loudly. "How dare she slap Pacquiao's wife? This girl is done. She will be fired immediately. Security should drag her out right now." Phones continued recording. Some people were not just shocked, they were entertained, waiting for the drama to unfold. And yet, in the middle of the noise, Manny stood still. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't demanded punishment. Instead, he gently placed a hand on Jinkee's shoulder, calming her. His silence was louder than the chaos. People whispered, "Why isn't he saying anything? Is he going to hit back?" No, Manny Pacquiao doesn't stay quiet for nothing. The saleswoman, still trembling, tried to justify herself. I didn't mean, she treated me like trash. I'm tired of people like her thinking they are better." Her words shocked everyone. This wasn't just an outburst. It was anger built up from somewhere deeper. The boutique manager's voice grew harsh. "Pack your things, you're done here." The saleswoman's pride cracked for a moment, her eyes watering. Still, she stood her ground. But everyone around her had already passed judgment. To them, she was just disrespectful, unprofessional, and unforgivable. And yet Manny didn't move. He simply kept watching her. His calmness built even more suspense. Every second of silence felt heavier than words. People leaned forward, wondering, was this the moment the boxing legend would explode? Would he use his influence to punish her? Or Was something else going on inside his mind? The whispers grew louder. Customers shook their heads. A few even left the store convinced they had seen enough. But those who stayed couldn't take their eyes off Manny, because deep down, everyone sensed he wasn't ignoring the slap. He was searching for something beyond it, and in that silence the question lingered in the air like a storm waiting to break. What was Manny Pacquiao about to do? The boutique was still buzzing with tension. The manager demanded security to step in, but Manny gently raised his hand, signaling them to stop. "Wait," he said softly. His tone wasn't angry, but it carried weight. The entire room went silent again. He slowly stepped forward, standing just a few feet from the saleswoman who had struck his wife. She looked at him, her body stiff, her pride and fear battling inside her. Everyone held their breath. Manny spoke in a calm, almost fatherly tone. "Miss, what happened? Why did you do that?" The question stunned everyone. Instead of demanding punishment, instead of shouting, Manny was asking. The saleswoman blinked rapidly. Her lips parted, but no words came at first. Then she forced herself to speak. She looked down on me, treated me like I was nobody. Gasps filled the boutique. The arrogance in her tone shocked the crowd. A woman in the corner whispered, "How dare she say that after slapping Jinkee?" But Manny didn't react harshly. He kept his eyes steady, gentle, and curious. "And if you were in her place?" Manny asked quietly. "How would you want to be treated?" The room went still again. That question pierced deeper than any lecture. The saleswoman's eyes flickered. For a moment her pride cracked, and something softer appeared. But then she crossed her arms, trying to hold on to her defense. "You don't understand. People like her, people with money. They think they can say anything to us." Jinkee stayed silent, her hand still resting on her cheek, her expression calm but pained. Manny turned his head gently toward his wife, then back to the saleswoman. "I understand more than you think," Manny said softly. The crowd leaned in, sensing something deeper was about to unfold. The young woman's voice trembled. "No, you don't. You've never had to live like me. You've never been treated like dirt." A heavy silence followed. Everyone expected Manny to defend his wife, to cut the woman off, to show anger. Instead, he asked another soft question. "What makes you feel that way? Tell me. What are you going through?" The saleswoman froze. Her defenses wavered. No one had ever asked her that before, especially not someone like Manny Pacquiao. Her lips trembled. She wanted to stay strong, but her voice cracked. "You wouldn't understand. Nobody does." Manny took a small step closer, his tone even gentler now. "Maybe I will, but only if you let me listen." The entire boutique was silent. Customers who had been recording lowered their phones. Even the manager, who had been ready to fire her, stood quietly watching. It was as if the boxing champion had turned the entire confrontation into a private conversation, one that everyone was now invested in. The saleswoman's eyes began to glisten. Her chest rose and fell heavily. She tried to look away, but Manny's calm gaze kept pulling her back. Finally, her voice broke through the silence, low and shaky. "You really want to know? You really want to hear it?" Manny nodded. "Yes. Tell me. Because every story matters." Her chin quivered, her pride slipping away like sand through her fingers. The anger in her tone was gone, replaced by something fragile, almost childlike. The crowd leaned in further. Even Jinkee, still calm, tilted her head gently, showing she was listening. And then, in that moment, the walls around the young woman's heart began to crack. She whispered almost to herself, "You have no idea how hard it's been." The tension had shifted. The slap that once defined the moment was no longer the focus. Instead, all eyes were now on the young woman's trembling lips, waiting for the story that was about to spill from her heart. And Manny Pacquiao, the boxing legend known for his fists, stood there ready to fight in a different way, with patience, compassion, and the power of listening. The crowd waited. The next, words from the saleswoman would reveal everything. The boutique was frozen in silence. Every eye was fixed on the young saleswoman whose hand had crossed the line just moments ago. Her lips trembled as if 1,000 unspoken words were pressing to come out. Finally, her voice cracked. "You want to know? Fine, I'll tell you." Her eyes filled with tears, though she tried to hold them back. Pride had carried her until now, but the weight of her reality was too heavy. "I wake up at 4 in the morning every single day," she began, her voice low and shaky. "I take 2 jeepneys and a bus just to get here on time. My shift is long, sometimes 12 hours, and when everyone else goes home, I'm still here, folding clothes, cleaning up, covering for coworkers who never show up." The crowd listened quietly, the energy in the boutique shifting. No one expected this side of the story. "My mother is sick," she continued, swallowing hard. "She hasn't worked in years. My father left us when I was 10. And I'm the only one left to feed my 2 younger siblings. Do you know what that feels like? To be their sister and their mother all at once?" Her tears slipped down her cheeks. For the first time, she wasn't the arrogant saleswoman anymore. She was a tired daughter, a struggling sister, a human being, carrying too much. "I can't afford medicine for my mother. I can't even buy proper food some days. And yet when rich customers come in here, they look at me like I'm nothing, like I'm invisible, like I'm less of a person because I wear this uniform and stand behind a counter." Her voice broke, but she forced herself to continue. "So today, when I thought she was talking down to me," she glanced shamefully at Jinkee, "I snapped. I shouldn't have. But you don't know how many times I've had to swallow my pride, how many times I've been humiliated just to keep this job." The room was heavy with emotion. Even those who had judged her instantly now lowered their heads. Some customers who had been recording slowly put their phones away, ashamed of turning her pain into entertainment. Manny listened without interruption. His face was calm, but his eyes carried deep compassion. He wasn't looking at her like a criminal. He was looking at her like a human being who needed to be heard. The young woman wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I never wanted to be like this. I wanted to study, to finish school, maybe become a teacher, but dreams don't pay bills. Reality doesn't care about what you want. So here I am, working myself to the bone, watching life pass me by." Her words hit the audience like a punch to the chest. People shifted uncomfortably, realizing how quick they had been to label her without knowing the pain behind her actions. Jinkee, still standing quietly beside Manny, finally spoke in a soft, steady tone. "I wasn't looking down on you. I'm sorry if it felt that way." The saleswoman's lips quivered. For the first time, she lowered her gaze in shame. "I know. I couldn't hold it in anymore." And in that moment, the crowd saw not just a saleswoman and a famous wife, but 2 women, both human, both vulnerable, both misunderstood in their own ways. Manny took a step closer, his voice steady but warm. "You've carried so much on your shoulders, but anger is not the answer. You are stronger than the pain you hide. Don't let it turn you into someone you are not." His words weren't just for her, they were for everyone listening. The boutique was silent again, but this time it wasn't tense. It was emotional. Customers who had come to shop for clothes were now standing in the middle of an unexpected lesson about humility, struggle, and the unseen battles of life. Have you ever judged someone without knowing their story? Did you later regret it? Share your experience in the comments. The saleswoman finally broke down. Her knees weakened as tears flowed freely. This wasn't arrogance anymore. This was exhaustion, pain, and a desperate cry for understanding. And Manny, instead of turning away, stood right there with her, listening, empathizing, and waiting for the truth that was still unfolding. The boutique was thick with emotion. The young saleswoman had just poured out her story, a story of poverty, sickness, sleepless nights, and battles no one had seen. Her tears still stained her cheeks. The crowd stood stunned, caught between judgment and sympathy. But Manny Pacquiao wasn't finished. He turned gently to the boutique manager. "Tell me, is what she said true?" The manager hesitated, looking from Manny to the trembling saleswoman. Finally, she sighed. "Yes, it's true. She's one of my most hardworking employees. Always the first to arrive, the last to leave. She never complains even when she covers extra shifts. But lately, I've seen her breaking down. I just didn't know it was this bad." The saleswoman buried her face in her hands, ashamed that her private struggle was now public. Manny nodded slowly. His eyes then moved to another staff member standing nearby. "And you? What do you know about her?" The young clerk, hesitant, at first finally spoke up. She once sold her own phone just to pay for her mother's medicine. She didn't tell anyone, but we found out later. She's strict sometimes, but she's good-hearted. She just hides it behind a tough face." Whispers spread quickly across the boutique. Customers who had been ready to condemn her now exchanged guilty looks. The truth was reshaping everything. One shopper whispered to her friend, "I judged her so quickly. I had no idea she was carrying so much." Another shook his head. "Life really pushes people to the edge. No wonder she snapped." The tension in the boutique shifted from outrage to empathy. The crowd that had once demanded her punishment now softened, their eyes heavy with sympathy. But Manny still wasn't done. He turned to a middle-aged woman standing near the counter, a regular customer who had witnessed the saleswoman's behavior many times before. "What about you? How has she treated you?" The woman crossed her arms, thinking for a moment. Then she nodded. "She's always served me well. Sometimes her tone is rough, yes, but she never cheats, never cuts corners. She once ran outside, in the rain just to return the change I'd accidentally dropped. Honestly, she's honest to the core." Gasps again. This wasn't the image people had expected. The truth was now clear. She wasn't a cruel, arrogant worker. She was a hard-working daughter, a struggling sister, and a broken soul pushed to her limits by the cruelty of life. Manny exhaled deeply, his face calm but firm. He looked at the saleswoman, no longer with the eyes of someone who had been disrespected, but with the gaze of someone who understood. The crowd, meanwhile, was restless. Some whispered nervously, "What's he going to do now? Will he let her go? Or will he forgive her?" The saleswoman herself trembled, unable to meet his eyes. Shame and fear gripped her heart. She whispered under her breath, almost inaudible, "Please, don't ruin me. This job, it's all I have." Her words hung in the air like fragile glass. Manny stepped closer. The entire boutique leaned in, as if the world had slowed down just to hear what he would say next. And then, with a voice steady and full of gravity, Manny said, "You made a mistake. But a mistake doesn't erase who you are. I've heard the truth. You are hardworking, honest, and fighting battles no one here can see. For that, you deserve a chance, not destruction." The room erupted with whispers. Did he just say, chance? He's not punishing her? Wow. The young woman's knees weakened. Tears streamed freely now. She looked at Manny and Jinkee, her voice broken. I don't deserve your mercy." Manny shook his head softly. "Everyone deserves mercy, especially those who've carried the weight of the world on their shoulders." The boutique was stunned. Justice wasn't being served in the way people expected, through punishment or revenge. Instead, it was being served in the most powerful way of all, through compassion. If you were in Manny's place, would you forgive her? Or would you make sure she paid the price? Comment below, because your answer might change how others see forgiveness. The truth was out. The saleswoman was not a villain. She was human, broken, flawed, but real. And now, the world waited to see what transformation Manny Pacquiao would bring next. The boutique was holding its breath. The truth had been revealed. The saleswoman was not a monster, but a daughter, a sister, and a woman carrying more than most could bear. Yet the sting of the slap still lingered on Jinkee's cheek, and the crowd was waiting. Everyone wanted to know. What would Manny Pacquiao do now? The manager cleared her throat nervously. Sir, with all due respect, this employee crossed the line. Slapping a customer, your wife no less, is unforgivable. I still believe she should be fired immediately. The saleswoman's knees buckled. Her eyes widened in fear. If she lost this job, her family's survival would collapse with it. She whispered desperately, "Please, please don't let them fire me." All eyes turned back to Manny. He took a step forward, his voice, calm yet firm, "No." The single word echoed louder than a shout. The boutique fell silent. "No," Manny repeated. "You will not fire her." The manager blinked in shock. But sir," Manny raised his hand gently, cutting her off. "She made a mistake, a serious one. But firing her will not solve her problems, it will only bury her deeper. She does not need punishment. She needs hope." The saleswoman's tears spilled freely. She covered her mouth with trembling hands, her body shaking. Manny turned to Jinkee. "My wife was hurt today, yes, but my wife is also strong enough to forgive." Jinkee nodded softly, stepping closer. She reached out her hand toward the trembling young woman. The crowd gasped as Jinkee whispered, "I forgive you." The saleswoman broke down completely. Her legs gave way, and she fell to her knees in front of Jinkee, clutching her hand, sobbing uncontrollably. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Please forgive me. Thank you. Thank you." Even the coldest hearts in the boutique melted. Customers wiped tears from their eyes. Some who had been quick to judge now felt ashamed, but Manny wasn't finished. He bent down slightly so his eyes met the saleswoman's level. His voice was steady but filled with compassion. "You are hardworking, you are honest, but you are drowning. That's why today you let anger control you. I will not let this mistake destroy you. Instead, I will help you rise from it." The woman looked up, stunned. What do you mean?" Manny reached into his pocket and handed a folded envelope to the manager. "This is to cover her week's salary while she takes a break. She needs rest, and when she returns, I expect her to serve customers with patience, not anger. She will not lose her dignity, and she will not lose her job." The boutique erupted in whispers of awe. Did he just pay her salary? Unbelievable. This is real compassion. The saleswoman shook her head violently. I can't accept this. I don't deserve it." Manny smiled softly. "Mercy is never deserved. It's given." The words hit everyone in the room like a hammer to the heart. The young woman sobbed harder, clutching the floor as if the ground itself was holding her together. Her arrogance was gone. All that remained was gratitude, humility, and deep regret. The manager's eyes filled with tears too. "Sir, I've never seen anything like this." Customers applauded. Some even clapped through tears, moved by the sight of forgiveness and compassion in action. The saleswoman finally whispered through her sobs, "I swear, I will never forget this. I will work harder. I will change. Thank you. Thank you both." Manny gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then prove it. Not for me, not for anyone else, but for yourself and for your family. Let this mistake become the moment that transforms your life." The entire boutique, once filled with tension and outrage, now stood in stunned admiration. What began as a public humiliation had become a public redemption, and with that, the transformation was complete. The woman who had once raised her hand in anger was now on her knees, humbled, forgiven, and given a second chance. Justice had been served, not with vengeance but with mercy. The boutique, once filled with shock and judgment, now echoed with the sound of quiet sniffles and soft applause. The saleswoman, who had moments ago stood tall in anger, was now on her knees, broken, humbled, and transformed. Jinkee bent down and gently helped her up. The two women stood face to face, and in a moment that no one would forget, Jinkee whispered, "Let this day be a new beginning for you." The young woman clutched Jinkee's hands, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I promise. I will change. I will never let my pain turn into anger again. You have no idea what this means to me." The crowd watched in awe. Some were openly crying. Others bowed their heads, ashamed of how quickly they had judged. Even the boutique manager, who had been ready to fire her, sighed deeply. "You still have your job. Not because of me, but because this couple chose mercy over punishment. Learn from this. Don't waste it." The saleswoman nodded desperately. "I won't. I swear I won't." Manny, who had been quiet for a moment, finally turned to the crowd. His words carried the weight of wisdom, yet they were spoken in his gentle, humble voice. "All of us make mistakes. Some are big, some small. But mistakes don't define who we are. How we rise after them does. Never be quick to judge, because behind every angry word, behind every rash action, there is often a hidden story, a struggle you cannot see." Silence followed. His words struck deep, touching every heart in the boutique. He continued, "Respect is not only for the rich or the powerful. Respect is for everyone. The waitress, the janitor, the salesman, the security guard. Because in the end, we are all the same. We are all human. We are all fighting battles others know nothing about." The room erupted in applause, not the kind of applause for a boxing champion, but for a man who had shown true strength in the form of humility. The saleswoman lowered her head once more. "Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. You've given me something I didn't think I deserved, and a second chance." Manny smiled, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't waste it. Go home tonight, hug your family, and remember, kindness can change the world. One choice at a time." Tears filled her eyes again, but this time, they weren't only tears of regret. They were tears of hope. The boutique returned to its rhythm, but nothing felt the same. Customers left with their shopping bags, yet their hearts carried something much more valuable, a lesson they would never forget. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because your story matters too. Maybe the world needs to hear it. And with that, the scene closed. What began as a moment of public shame had transformed into a powerful reminder. True power is not in the fists, but in forgiveness.